If you haven't been on these Zoom calls before, I'd like to introduce Matthew Krozek from XELLO. He is our success manager, and he will be walking us through today on some of the new aspects of the student dashboard that has been updated through XELLO and has a lot of really good useful features to be used in both the classroom setting and as counselors. So we're excited to share that with you, and also excited to share some features about some resources that you're able to upload specifically to your students, so they have easy access to some documents at their fingertips that might be useful in your classroom. So with that, I will let Matt take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. And good morning, everyone. So just as Laura had said, we're going through some resources today and how to post them, as well as how to upload local scholarship information. So that's pretty exciting. So I'm just going to jump to our agenda today, just so we can go through that quickly. So today we're just going to go through how students access dashboard resources in XELLO, what that looks like, how you're able to add them, how students find local scholarships in XELLO. So now that we've added that local scholarships tool, how you can add those in there, how students can search, how they can mark that they've applied, that they've won. So really cool pieces there too. We're going to go into the back end and look at how to basically post a dashboard resource and how to be really intentful with it. So how to use some of the information that's in the reporting side of XELLO to post, very useful resources for students. Because you have access to so much information, it's really great to be able to use that to your disposal. Then of course, how to post a local scholarship on the educator side. Really brief, it is pretty self-explanatory, but it's just nice to see where that is. We're going to be just talking a little bit about the additional resources we've added to our help page, and then of course our workshop through Mentimeter. So for those who have been to the other sessions, you're probably quite familiar with Mentimeter. You're going to be using your device, be it your cell phone or your laptop, to open up a secondary window to just help us with responses, so we could share as a group some of that information. What Laura and I wanted everyone to do today is, as we're going through this presentation today, on a scrap piece of paper, just write down some ideas that you might have for dashboard resources or links that you'd want to include, maybe even some scholarships you're thinking of adding. If you can think of any off the top of your head that you've always wanted to have in XELLO, this is the time to add them. So definitely write those down, have them handy, and we'll talk about that a little later in our workshop. So to start, we have a links and resources section. We call them dashboard resources in XELLO. So this is where educators can really customize and personalize that section for students. You could put actionable items in there, such as applications to jobs. You could add, for example, here I have some ideas here. I have a college planning page I created. There's a bunch of different things you could put in that section. Again, using some of the data within XELLO, knowing what students' saved careers are, their saved clusters, you can now push things to them, right, and making sure that they have those items in their hands. It's really easy to upload links and to take students to outside resources outside of the XELLO ecosystem. Of course, when clicked, it opens up a secondary window because we want to make sure students can still navigate back to XELLO at any point. In order to create a dashboard resource, you will have to create a group or use our existing groups. So the existing groups we have in XELLO are the grade levels. So you'll be able to use those as a default. So if you wanted to, apply a resource to all students within a specific grade, and for example, in some of the examples I have below in my image there, you're able to do that. It's really great, makes it easy to use. Some ideas for some things you could put there. Just wanted to talk about some things that you could have, knowing that testing is such a big aspect, right? So be it ASVAB for military, right? They're able to take practice tests. That's a great addition to having within that section. We also have some other resources here for SAT, ACT prep that are free of charge. Of course, the one that I do want to highlight is method test prep. There is a charge for that. But just something to keep in mind, right, as you are able to add these types of resources in that section. You could even go as simple as adding, in that example there, I have a welcome to XELLO pamphlet. So some really, really easy things you can add. We want to make it useful, timely, make it actionable for students who might have different interests, right? Not all students are going to the military, so maybe specific students would get that resource assigned to them. And maybe not all students are going to college, so maybe they're not going to have this ACT, SAT prep added to their dashboard. So you can be very intentional, and that's what I wanted you to think of. So keep that in mind while we're going through this presentation of ways that you can add resources and things that you would think your students will find helpful. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of this presentation is at any point, if you have questions, feel free to use the question pane within Zoom. Laura will make sure to answer those questions or to stop me if she might not know the answer, so I can address any of those. Just moving on, so we have a local scholarship tool that we've added to XELLO. This launched in May of this past year. So we're able to now to add scholarships for juniors and seniors. Makes it really easy for them to take a look at and you as educators to add. So what you're basically doing is filling a very simple form within the educator tool to get these scholarships posted. We try to capture as many of the different fields as possible. Of course, that's very hard to do. So that's one of those things we're going to have to continuously update. But definitely something that would capture, for the most part, most of those fields, be it an SAT score, an essay, how many scholarships are available, are they merit-based, what types of education do you need to have to be able to achieve or to be able to apply, sorry, for those scholarships. So those are things that obviously come into play when adding these into XELLO. And then on the student side, we tried to make it as easy as possible for them to search and filter through these scholarships. Of course, the more you add, the harder it would be for students to find these. So what we did was we gave them searchable fields so they could search by name. They could also filter this list by deadline, by amount, by name. And of course, we're going to add other advanced features as well. As we develop this tool, on our roadmap, we're planning to add a national scholarship database. So that is on our roadmap, as well as a scholarship quiz. So that way students will get matched to scholarships, which would make it a lot easier for them to search through. But for now, they'll be using these filters. It's really, again, easy to use. To take a look at some of the fields and the way this looks, I just have this little short video here, but really there's a lot of specifics that go into posting a scholarship. And of course, this could be time consuming as well. So what we try to do is make it as easy as possible for you to add a local scholarship, making sure and keeping in mind that these scholarships are relevant for your student population, because sometimes those requirements can eliminate them. So these are things that you also need to keep in mind when adding a scholarship. And in some cases, it might make sense to have one district add a scholarship and maybe not every high school, for example. So it really is dependent because sometimes they're very regionally based. But here you can see there's quite a bit of attributes we've added for you to add a scholarship, again, making it as easy as possible. And of course, on the student side, whatever you've added on the educator's side, a student will see. So there's a lot of those attributes, again, that appear on the student side. They just appear a little differently. Of course, this sits within our college planning tool. So students are able to find scholarships. They're able to mark that they're interested. They're able to mark that they've applied, and they're also able to mark that they've won. All of that we'll be going through today. So it's really neat that they can do that. You as educators have a report now in XELLO to see who's applied to what scholarship, who's interested in certain scholarships, and even who had won. So making this really, really easy for you to use. In a lot of cases, even this information hasn't been something that has been easy to gather. We really just have to take a student for their word when they say they have applied to a scholarship. This again just takes it that step further. You can really ensure that they are doing so, they're actioning these scholarships, because it is a really important part of paying for college as well as anything else post-secondary. And just as I'd mentioned, of course, scholarships are an important part of funding college. So that's why we put it within our college planning tool. Students are it's really easy for them to find scholarships. The interface is easy to navigate. The information is laid out very clearly to them. On the educator side, which I kind of touched on, the reporting tool allows you to see which scholarships they've expressed interest in. Of course, this is self-reported, so a student could click a link within that scholarship and take a look at that scholarship information, but by no means does that mean they're interested. On screen, you can see right next to, right here where it's in the green here, it says interested, they would click add, which we'll go through again when we jump into XELLO, but that's how they'll show interest and indicate that. And again, that's how you'll see it within your report on the educator tool.
Matt, we have a couple questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so what we're wondering is, first of all, what level access do you need to be able to add things like dashboard resources and local scholarships?
Yep, so you need to be able to create student groups. So that's at the administrator level and user level. So those two levels will allow for you to add a dashboard resource or a scholarship.
Okay, so if you are at the teacher level, you can also...
Yes, at the user level, yeah. So that, I know just to clear that up, because I know that came up in the last webinar. So I know you may be an administrator at your building, but you need to be an administrator in XELLO or a user in XELLO, just because that I know got a little confusing last time.
Also, if you enter a scholarship into XELLO for 1 year and then it's available the following year, is there a quick way to reactivate that into the system?
Yes, you can actually put that it's continuous. So all that would do then is it would appear next year at the same, for that same date, that same deadline. You just have to update the deadline in XELLO.
Okay.
So easy
And
to do.
just to clarify, are you able to designate specific students? Like if it was a scholarship for business students, were you able to just designate the students in your business class to be able to receive that?
So you can mark it off that a student would need to be in a business class to be able to apply, but you couldn't remove others from finding it.
Okay.
They would still be able to find those within. This goes back to dashboard resources though, because we can link within XELLO. So you could actually take the link of that scholarship that you have within XELLO and actually link it on a student's dashboard. So you could be intentional and just say, all of those in my business class, I've added this dashboard resource. And what it does is just links to the scholarship within XELLO. So you could have it be within itself, which will make it a lot easier. So you could do it that way. That would be one way to ensure that those business students have that scholarship in front of them.
Okay, and our last question has to do with the ACT, SAT resources that you had. It's Jody asked, did you say that there was an ACT, SAT prep besides MTP that did not cost extra?
I believe College Board has one, but there is a fee once you go beyond their free tools. It's not too bad. I've played with it a bit myself. There's some practice tests and some things that students can sign up for. But beyond that, if they wanted to go in deeper dive into it, there is a cost associated with it from what I found. But that would be the one I would recommend. It seems to be the most concise. The tests seemed relevant. They seemed actually quite hard. I went in and kind of poked around. I was like, these definitely seem like great practice tests. So that would be one resource I would recommend adding.
Okay, and we're at the 15-minute mark at 10:15, and that's the end of our questions.
Yeah, no problem. So just carrying on from that section, just again to dive into filters. I know I kind of have talked about it a little bit, but I think it's important that we go through this just a little more. Being able to take a look at filters that are available within the scholarship tool. There are a lot of different ones that we have. We're also planning to add more. At this point, because we don't have that quiz that we're hoping to add to XELLO at a point in the near future, these filters will help students find your scholarships. Again, being really intentional and taking a look at what mattered most. So of course we added a filter for the amount, the strength of that match, which will be part of that quiz, which will be coming, the name, and there's going to be others as well. I would suggest even yourself as an educator that once you add a scholarship to go into your demo account and take a look at it. See what a student is seeing on the student side in your demo account. That way you can kind of get an idea of what it would take for them to find it as well. Sometimes including other information in the name. For example, we had just Laura just presented a question about business students. You could actually be even more intentional and put in the name that it's for business-oriented students. So again, it catches their attention. Just some ways to organize it a little better, but that is one way that you can definitely make sure that those students find that scholarship. At this point, we are going to jump into XELLO to take a look more at the tools that are available. So right now, what you're seeing on screen is my educator dashboard. So just like all of you, you have access to your educator dashboard. Within your educator dashboard, you have access to demo students. Depending on what grade level you teach and your building, how it's set up. You may be at a middle school, a high school. The tools we're talking about today, dashboard resources are for middle school, so 6 to 12. Scholarships, that local scholarship tool is for just juniors and seniors, so grades 11 and 12 only. Just to make sure we can see everything, I'm going to go in as a senior, as a 12th grade student, so I'll just select that grade, and then I'll click View as a student. You all can do this as well, and I highly suggest doing so. So when you go into XELLO, to make sure that you can see everything a student's seeing, to play around with anything you've posted, be it a dashboard resource, be it a scholarship. For those who haven't accessed our other sessions, what you're seeing now on my screen is the new student dashboard. This is the one that we presented a few times now in some of the other sessions that allow students to track their progress. You as educators can take a look at their progress as well. So the layout is a little bit different, but just keep in mind we haven't removed anything from that dashboard. Really right now, the biggest difference is that now a student can see their progress. So of course we want them to get to that 100% in this wheel. That's really the biggest change other than the visual look. So to the right here, just below the About Me, Explore Options and Goals and Plans section, and just below assignments, we have links and resources. So this is the section I was talking about when, at the beginning of my presentation. So this is where you can link out to other resources within XELLO. What I do want to show you some of the ones I've created just to kind of spark your interest and give you some ideas on things you can do. So I created several pages within Google, a part of the Google web pages, which are free of charge to create. What I did was I created microsites. Some of these just really designate to certain topics. Because a lot of the scholarship information we have right now is in college planning, I wanted to make sure that students at every grade could find out about scholarships. So how do I get that information in front of them? Well, that's why I decided to make one of these dashboard resources. Also below that, I made a page for skilled trades because we know that skilled trades are such an important part of pathways. I wanted to make sure that students that were interested in skilled trades, I could purposefully assign them this resource so they could start taking a look at it. And then of course, military career information. Understand that students, a vast majority of them might not be looking at military careers, but sometimes it's good to have that resource there to see what is possible, some different pathways they could take a look at, how they could go from military back into a regular career, because there is that connection. So being able to see all that information in one place is really great. So what I'm going to do first is just click on my scholarship page. So when I click on the scholarship information page, it opens up a separate window. Again, always maintaining that a student can go back to their dashboard. So here, this page I created really just, again, helping students to get a sense of what scholarships are, some basics about the application process, just looking at local scholarship sites for Michigan students, some national sites, right? And hopefully what you're seeing here is I try to keep this very organized and succinct. So when a student navigates to this page, they're able to really go through each of these resources separately. And again, these are just links to outbound websites as well. But of course, some of the free resources I was able to find I've included here. And then also below that, I just have what goes into a common scholarship application, scholarships for diversity, and then just looking at some scholarships that I want to highlight. So again, this page just really helpful for students, like I said, in all grades. This could even go down to the middle school, really, if you want to get them just to get a sense of what scholarships are and how they work. This is a great introduction to it. again, keeping in mind that our tool right now is for juniors and seniors. So unfortunately, no other grade will see that information. This is just a way to make sure that it's top of mind when they do have access to this later on.
Matt, with what we're looking at here, this is essentially a website, correct?
Correct.
So
Yes.
if a high school already has a site like this where Brighton High School has taken all of the scholarships that are local and added some of the national resources and things like that, could they simply just put their high school link onto that links and resources so it can just go right to that? And
Yes.
similarly, if it's time to recruit students for DECA, for example, if that's in a
Yes.
different website but already housed somewhere on the
Mhm.
school website, you just put a link to it on the dashboard, correct?
Correct, exactly, and that's what I wanted you to see. And I think what you're saying there, Laura, is so true. That if you already have existing web pages that you've created for students, this is where you'd put them. This is a great place for them to live. You can see how easy it is for me to access it. Again, I can always go back to Xello, really just centralizing where all those resources are. Because sometimes for students as well, just like educators, they're not really sure where to go, where to find all that information. So adding these in would be really helpful. But again, this scholarship page was just a website I created, just keeping in mind what we have accessible in Xello, and just going that step further. That's really what this was, to showcase and just make you really open your mind to things and to see what the possibilities are. And just really quickly, just on that note, and just for the sake of time, I do want to just check out one of the other pages I've created, which is the military career information. Again, just keeping in mind, this is a web page I created. This isn't in Xello. And this, again, is just to highlight the different areas of the military for those students who are interested in it, taking a look at what the military is, how they get into it, some of the benefits of being in it, taking like the ASVAB test, right, and how they can go take practice tests, how they eligible for it, comparing their results, right? So just giving them that introduction to it. And then of course, then just looking at some videos about the ASVAB and understanding your results, and then looking at what the programs are that are available once you have taken your test. So again, just trying to think of ways to better house this information, give it to students who are interested in it, and just making sure that it's easy to find. So it's all kept, again, in a central place, making it really, really easy for everyone to use. So that's really in a nutshell what links and resources are. We're going to go into the educator side in a little bit to show you how you can post these. What I want to go into next is just how students are going to find scholarships. So on the student dashboard, within goals and plans, we have for juniors and seniors, we've added the tab college planning. Within this tool, we're going to look at scholarships specifically today. There is a whole extra set of pieces we've added to this that we're going to go through in other sessions. So the Knowledge Hub is something we'll definitely be going through in a session in the future. So just keep that in mind when we're navigating through it if you see anything that we're not talking about today. So again, as a junior and senior, I'd click the college planning link. This takes me to my college planning section. So here's where I can take a look at my college applications. For those schools that I'm looking at applying to, I can keep track of my application here. Below that, you'll see I have local scholarships, and this is what the tool we're going to go into today. For the most part, you're probably noticing that the navigation has changed within this section. We did that on purpose, making sure that any of those college-bound students can find all the information pertaining to it. So right now, we're going to jump into the local scholarships. So I'm going to go view my scholarships. And here's the student's scholarship dashboard. So here is where they'll save any of the scholarships they're interested in. You can see right now I haven't saved any. So I have to go right now to save them, but this is where they're going to keep track of ones they've applied to, ones they've won, ones they're interested in applying to. So I can always go back and take a look at those. So right now we're going to jump into search for local scholarships. These are scholarships that I've posted. So these are the 4 that I've posted on the educator side in my Michigan demo account. But you can see here, these are the ones that I thought were most useful right now. I found these on a web page just for Michigan students. Right here to the right, or sorry, right below the title. You can see they're able to search by name because maybe you've highlighted a certain scholarship you wanted them to find. They could search for it. They could take a look at the different filters, so they can go and look at the deadlines, so from earliest to latest, alphabetically, or by amount. So they could be really intentional with them looking at these. So when they do, it'll update in real time and it'll filter through those. And this is really helpful when you have a significant list. Obviously, in this case, with only having 4, I wanted to give you an idea of what these would look like, how they might work, how they would show up for students. So let's go in and take a look at one of the scholarships. So I'm going to jump into the Gerber Foundation Merit Scholarship. So here is, again, the one that I had posted. So you'll see that a student can see what the amount is, the deadline, how many awards are available, is it renewable? So this is one that where you're not going to have to repost every year because it's renewable, because each year it's refillable, this will stay active for students to find. So again, really neat that they're able to do that. You on the educator side makes it very easy for you to manage it. On this page, I can also see how to apply. It goes through just some information I've posted. I know right here the formatting is a little odd. I had an issue with that this morning, so unfortunately I haven't been able to fix that. It has to do with the word editor I had used. It's not actually a problem with the program. It's actually a piece of software I use basically to take these and add them in. And so I need to go back and fix that, but it's great again to be able to see what you want to change within an actual scholarship itself. To the right of that, we have Knowledge Hub. So it gives students some more information about paying for college outside of scholarships. Again, we'll be going through that in another session. The application requirements, the criteria you're able to add. And again, we tried our best to add as many pieces as possible here so you can capture all that information, and then just the donor details. As a student here at the top, I can go ahead and mark that I'm interested in this by clicking add. So now this scholarship will be added to my scholarship dashboard, so I can go now keep track of it. What's great about that is when I navigate back to it, I could either go back to scholarships or I could search for more. So if I search for more local ones, I'll be taken back to that list that we were just in, right? And if I wanted to go back a section, just to even look at college planning, I can now if I wanted to go back. But now that that scholarship's been saved. So now I'm just going to go back to college planning for a second and jump back into local scholarships. But even before I do, you can see that that Gerber Foundation Merit Scholarship's been saved, and I can see the deadline. So of course, this is just to tag me and capture my attention if I need to pay attention to that deadline, if it's approaching. So I'm going to click View My Scholarships. Yep.
Just a question for you on the Knowledge Hub piece. I know we're going to be covering Knowledge Hub in a upcoming session.
Yes.
But what you have over there, the 3 really relevant
Yeah, I'll go back for
resources like the FAFSA, the
Yep.
grants and loans, those 3 things. Did you add those in, or are they automatically in the Knowledge Hub for people?
Sorry, they're automatically added to that section. So as we add more, so right now we have sections on paying for college. We have several other sections we'll be adding, but we're only adding relevant ones to a certain section. For example, we're in scholarships, which has to do with paying for college. So all the Knowledge Hub articles and information is about that. If we were to navigate to another section, it would change what topics would be shown there. It's based on what we've tagged. Does that make sense?
So that we meaning XELLO. So XELLO has added those items into Knowledge Hub.
Correct.
That isn't something that an educator has to do.
No, we've added all this information. We've done all that research. We've created all those links. This is from our content team. This is from our relationships with educators that we've put these resources together, as well as our relationship with the College Board. They've been helping us with putting these resources together. So they've been vetted. They're there for easy access for students and really helping to bring some of those processes into XELLO, right? So applying for FAFSA in XELLO, looking at grants, work study, and loans in XELLO, looking at how scholarships could work for paying for college, and some advice and tips around that. So really
Great.
helpful, but again, like you said, we're going to be covering it in another session.
Yep, thank you. So we're at the 10:30 mark.
Yep, thank you. So just navigating back just to my scholarships, right where we were, you can see here on my scholarship dashboard as a student, I can see when the deadline is, the amount. I could see that I've put a status that I'm interested in it as of today. I can also look at some other ways of marking this scholarship as well. So if I went ahead and clicked the link for the application and applied today, I can actually hit that I had applied. So again, it's self-reported, but at least as a student, I know I've applied. You as an educator will see that I've applied today. So you have that information in a report. Great, because again, I don't think educators had insight other than taking a student's word for it. Really awesome. After applying, if let's say I find out down the road that I had won it, I can also mark that I've won it. And when I do, I actually get this confetti symbol come up. But again, on the educator side, you're going to see that I've won it. So really a great way for you to celebrate with that student. You know, if they want to put it within their, EDP, they want to make sure that it's captured there. This is where we want students to do that. We want to make sure that they are putting this information here. It makes it easy for you to see. Also keep in mind for things like letters of recommendation, right? If a student had won a scholarship, it's really easy to talk about and add to that letter of recommendation. So just think of ways that you can use this information or how a student could use it. Because you're really going to have to sell the idea probably of, using XELLO to do this, to track it, to keep an eye on it, to add to it, because they might not always think of it. So again, just keep that in mind, but all of that's available here. Of course, a student can always remove this as well. That's one other thing I wanted to mention. Be it that you saved it by accident, they don't want to apply to the scholarship, they can also remove it. If I go ahead and add several, every scholarship that I add from my list will be added to that dashboard. So quickly, just want to show you if I had clicked on another one as well and showcase that I'm interested in it. When I went back to my dashboard for scholarships, that will be added there. So now I can keep an eye on the statuses as a way of keeping track of what to do next. So again, making it really actionable and easy for a student to do so. If there aren't any questions about this, I'm going to jump to the educator side to go over how to add a dashboard resource and also how to add a scholarship. I don't think we had any more because I know Laura probably would have flagged me if we did, but I'll jump to the educator side right now. So back on the educator tool, this is where you can go ahead and add, again, dashboard resources or scholarships. Because dashboard resources require a student group to be created, I want to show you a little bit about some ways you could do that and some ways you could really be tactful in using the reporting to do so. So in the dashboard, you have access to reports. In reports, we have access to student work. And this is where you can find information about what suggests clusters or career students have had, their top skills, their personality. But really what I want to take a look at is things that they've saved, because that's really showing their interest in that, be it a saved career, a school, or even a saved cluster. So in this report, really, really handy when taking a look at it. You can look at saved careers overall. You can look at saved careers by student, saved clusters, or saved clusters by student. So I'm going to take a look at saved careers just for a second. We're just going to look at this list. Again, keep in mind this is my demo account, so these are demo students, so you might see some pretty wonky usernames and passwords and things like that, so just keep that in mind. But here, what's great about this is that when looking through what students have saved, if they've saved a career that I might have a resource on, maybe I have a local company that's looking for a specific career to be filled, maybe they're offering an internship or a job shadow. Maybe I have more information about that career. Maybe it's part of one of the more up and coming careers within Michigan. Maybe there's a lot of demand, for example, in nursing. I know nursing and healthcare are very big, high demand jobs. So if these 12 students are interested in nursing, what we can do is open the nursing section and just see who these students are. So again, I'm looking at them. I can see most of them are grade 10. I do have one grade 11 student, but maybe I want to make sure that these students have a piece of information that I have about nursing. So what I'm going to do is create a student group with these students. You can do so really, really easy. You just click add to a group. You click create new group. And what I'm going to call this for now is just nursing students. And so what we're going to do in a minute is once we've taken this group and created it, we're going to be able to assign a dashboard resource to these nursing students. So I'm going to click create. And now what that's done is there's a student group created for just these nursing students. So again, remember, these students have saved the nursing career, therefore showing interest. I mean, obviously those interests can change, but it would be great to be able to give them something about nursing so they can take a look at it. Maybe it'll spark some interest. Maybe they'll have a conversation with a counselor about it. But again, I want to make sure that they have that. I also, before even adding that resource, I could also send those students a message, really just talking about nursing. Maybe there's an up and coming speaker you're having, a nurse from a local hospital coming to speak to students, and you want these particular students to attend. You could send them a message in this section so that they can come to that event. So just keep that in mind as well, that you can communicate with this group as well. You don't just necessarily have to post resources to them. So now that we've created that nursing group, I'm just going to go back up to students, because this is where our student group lies. So just want you to take a look at that quickly because we've added that in. So here within our section here, you'll see we have nursing students. So these are the students that we've just created in that group. So there's 12 of them in total. To add a resource to those students to make sure that they have that information we wanted, we'd go to features. We click on dashboard resources. So this is where you can see the list of all the resources that I've already posted. But again, we want to make sure that those nursing students have this resource. So we're going to click add resource right here. And again, this is accessible for educators that are administrators, who are users. So you click add resource. In this section, you would add that resource. So if you're looking at adding that specific page, you can do so here. You could also add or connect it from a local file. Maybe you have a file that you want them to take a look at, an application for a job. You can add that here. Maybe it's a YouTube video, of talking about what it's like to be a nurse. You want them to see that information. You could add that here as well. Or maybe you have something in your Google Drive, something you've created. Maybe it's that Google page like I had. You could easily connect this to your Google Drive, add that resource in, and that way students can find it. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add in a link here just so that students can find it. So I'm going to put in Michigan, and this isn't a real link, but I wanted you just for demonstration purposes to see this. So we're going to click grab it. So at this point, this now is going to be displayed for students. So I'm going to put in here nurse career information. It's just so students will be able to see what the title of this is, so that way they'll know why or what this resource is. And now we're going to select the group we want this to display for. So again, I know I'd mentioned before you could put it to all students, you could specify that grade level, but we're going to make sure that we post it to just those nursing students. So when we click save, this resource now that we've posted will just be for those students. You can even see here the group we had posted it to, right, is those nursing students, right? We can take a look at what that piece was. We can also view it or edit. If we want to change maybe or add students to that nursing group, we can go ahead and do so if that changes. But hopefully you're seeing now that you can be really intentional on how you're adding these pieces in. And I'm using the data from XELLO to help me decide what pieces to give to what students and not just blasting this out to everyone. Some resources will need to have that be given to all students. Some need to be very intentional, and that's what I want you to see, that you can be if you need to be, but you also can be very open-ended as well. It's really up to you. But with doing so, I feel like these students would appreciate that resource, especially if they've saved nursing, right, as a career. So that's one great way to use this. Again, you could also go in and take a look at that resource yourself. I think this isn't a real page, so, but what you can see though is it does open up a separate page, so you can always take a look at the resources you've added as well. Next, I'm going to move to adding just a scholarship, and that would be done within the features section as well. So that is available within the college planning tool. So we've added this new tab with under features. So in college planning, not only is there local scholarships now, but there's transcripts and letters of recommendation that sit within this tool as well. For those who have that turned on, this is where you'll find transcripts and letters of recommendation going forward. It will be under college planning, and that also includes local scholarships. So for this local scholarship tool, to just simply view what you've added, you would click View. And here it'll bring up all the scholarships you've added thus far. You can see the ones that we had in today. We actually had saved, or I had saved, the Gerber Foundation Merit Scholarship. So that was the one that I posted. So you can see that here. To the right of it, you can manage it as well. So you can edit it or delete it. It will stay active as long as it is within XELLO. So even when that deadline passes, students can go and still find it. So if maybe they're looking for a scholarship that they thought they saw, it'll be kept within there. Unless you go ahead and delete it, it won't be deleted. To add a local scholarship, quite easy. You're clicking Add Local Scholarship. And at this point, you can go ahead and add the scholarship name, the description. You can put in bulleted points. You can link to other information if you wanted within the description. You can add the deadline. You can also mark that it's continuous. So maybe it's every year on March 5th, this award comes up. You can mark that there. The type of award, is it renewable? The award amount, the number of awards available, the school contact details, which I think are highly important to add. So be it the counseling group that adds these, but I believe anyone who's adding it should add their name in as a best practice. If you're adding in a scholarship, you should be the one that is in charge of it, or whoever is in charge of it should have their name there. So students can connect with you about details if they're maybe unsure what to do next. Then donor details. In some cases, some scholarships require you to email your application. Some want you to reach out by phone. Some want mail. So those are things to keep in mind because you may need to attach some of those donor details as a student. And then also capturing how to apply. I kind of just talked about it just now, but there's several ways that you could apply to this. Again, it could be an option of returning it to the counseling office as well as submitting it online or through email or through mail. Below that, we have just the requirements that are needed and just to lay out what they are, and then any additional information that you want to mention, if it's maybe returning it on a certain day or to a certain office. If it's mentioned in the requirements that that scholarship needs to be submitted all together versus they'll take separate pieces. I've seen that be a pretty popular ask. So that could be added here. Then some criteria. So this is for the filtering of these, and this will help students understand if they qualify. So by not entering anything, this is going to open it up to all students. But again, we want to make sure that it's relevant and it makes sense for those students who should apply, and it'll help them with filtering these as well. Also keep in mind that when our scholarship tool is developed and released for national scholarships and also our quiz, this criteria will be important because it'll allow that student, when taking that quiz, to be matched to these local scholarships as well. So again, all the information here that they can enter and take a look at, including some pretty diverse qualities that they may have. So all of that can be added. And then simply you can add other criteria or a web link and then you would click publish. And that's really how that works.
Now we have a couple of questions.
Sure, of course.
First of all, in this area where you're talking about the web link,
Yep.
I know some school districts have filtered it down and had their community actually agree to one common application for all scholarships.
Yep.
What criteria would you put under the how to apply application method, and where would you put the link to that? Would you do that in the web resources or on the dashboard?
I would, depending on, again, the requirements of that, if it is one application, they fill out one application and submit to all scholarships. Is that my understanding? Is that how that
Yes.
works?
Yes.
It may not make sense to add those here then. It might make sense as a dashboard resource because of the criteria that I've outlaid here. It would probably be very difficult to include all the different pieces for all of those awards. And then it would be cumbersome because you'd have to go back and add each individual award. Versus you already have a page created, it would be easier as a dashboard resource to add that to Xello. And then they would fill out that one application and still the same process, right? You would maintain your current process versus using this.
Okay.
This would be great for ones that you might find, outside of your process. That would be what I would suggest adding here.
Okay, great. Another, just a clarification, up at the top where you're filling out scholarship criteria, be sure to know that the renewable question is different than I think it said continuous on the deadline. So continuous deadline, that means you can turn in your scholarship at any time, correct? The renewable.
Yep. Sorry, go ahead, Laura.
Renewable is actually indicating whether a student would be able to renew it in their next year. Is that correct?
Correct.
Of school?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
I didn't mean to glaze over that. I'm sorry if I did. You are right. That's exactly how that works.
And then the last piece is, this kind of goes back to that question about if I go through and I add all the criteria for the scholarship in 2020, then I want to reactivate it for 2021. How does that work?
You would just simply need to edit one. So you would go back to your list because it would be published. You would just need to go and edit that specific one and just add that new due date.
New deadline. Okay.
Yeah,
Very
just
good.
go ahead and change that.
Very good.
So it's easy that way.
And then last question, if we have a specific scholarship, say for your nursing students, and that gets posted or a link gets added to their dashboard, do they get notified when items are added?
When on their dashboard, they'll see that a new resource has been posted, but they don't get notified. So they'll see that a new addition, it's in red, it says new next to that resource, but you still have to communicate with them about it. You're going to have to do something in terms of getting their attention. Other than that, because that new will disappear, I believe after 3 times that they log in, that new gets removed. So it won't be new then.
Okay. All right. And we're at the 10:50 mark.
Yep. Awesome. So if there aren't any other questions, I actually wanted to jump into the workshop session of this. For those who had remembered in other sessions, we had used Mentimeter in the past. So hopefully you have your device handy, be it your cell phone, your iPad. You can open up another window on your laptop just to go to menti.com. And I'm just going to open that up. So bear with me for 1 second. I'm just going to open up that session now. I'm just going to drag it onto our screen. So if you can go to menti.com and use the code 229939, and that will get you to this session. So again, you're going to go to menti.com, and that could be on your cell phone, your laptop, your iPad. Again, you could use the computer you're using right now. Just open up a new tab and go to menti.com. Use the code 229939. And I can even show you what that looks like as well, menti.com. And so you're just going to enter the code here. Again, the code is 229939. And when you do, you'll be presented this first question. So the first question we have on screen is, based on your rule, what dashboard resources would you choose to post to students? So I see we already have one answer. We have the Hot 50 jobs list, but I'll give you guys just a minute to get to minty.com, and again to use that, that code 229939.
And right now we're looking at Zello on your screen still, Matt. We don't see
Oh,
Minty.
I apologize. Here, I'm going to have to reshare my screen. Do you see it now, Laura?
Yes.
I'm sorry about that. I guess because I was flipped between my different windows, so I apologize for that. So again, for those who are just wondering what we're doing, again, you're going to go to minty.com and you're going to use the code 229939.
You might need to change the size of it. It's kind of big.
Yeah, sure. I can reduce it.
And then, yeah, it's over to the left. So we can't see all the words.
Oh, I apologize. Hold on one second. I think I just altered the view of it. Is that better now, though, Laura, or is it still off to one side?
It's still off to one side. You may have to, oh, there you go. Whatever you just did.
Okay, great. So now
you're not totally lined up yet, but you were getting better. You may just
okay.
have to read the responses to us.
Okay, no problem. I can do that. So just again, based on your rule, what dashboard resources would you choose to post to students? So we have some great ones here so far. So we have the Hot 50 jobs list. Totally agree. Keep in mind you have your regional one as well. So you are able to post that. Upcoming job shadow, career exploration opportunities, 100%. Links to scholarship sites, college prep sites, and some useful information sites such as ONET. Exactly. Test prep, so local scholarships, NCAN resources during college week, job opportunities that relate to career interests in your college of choice. Exactly. Interview skills, tips, video examples of personal elevator pitch, CLEMP and modern state website links, which I'm actually not familiar with, but that sounds fantastic. I really like the elevator pitch idea. Scholarships, test prep, all great ideas. Are there any other resources you could think of that a student might need that they might find helpful? Are there any other ones you can think of? These are some great, though, ones that you've mentioned. I really like some of these, especially I can't agree more with the Hot 50 jobs list for sure, and definitely the MCAN resources for College Week, really, really important. I think those are probably all the ones that we'll have right now. No problem. Let's move on to the next question. So what local scholarships would you post in Zello? Are there any that you can keep, that you have that maybe you would like to post so you can think of? Again, I did a really simple search and I found the Gerber Foundation. They seem to have some really great scholarships there, but are there any others that you could think of that maybe your colleagues aren't aware of? Scholarships that are local that would help them and help students, right? I think I've seen several others when I was checking out FastWeb as well. It's a great resource, but there's several others just for Michigan students specifically. But I can already see some answers are coming in now. So we have the LiveCo Road Rally. That's one here. There's also the Citizens Scholarship, I believe, is what's mentioned there. The Brighton Historical Society Scholarship, scholarships from surrounding employers. Exactly. Those would be great. Related to CTE programs and students, correct. Sometimes even those scholarships that have to do with what their parents do for a living, sometimes those are important. Keep in mind also ones that have to do with certain clubs, right? So I see Rotary was listed there. That's a great idea. But if there's any sort of clubs, be it football or baseball or sport related, religious groups, volunteering, all of those types of scholarships could also be used. Chamber of Commerce, yes, exactly. That would be a great one to have. Be it local ones too. Sometimes there's foundations that offer them as well. That are specific to that region. Also keep in mind There are also ones that are for diversity. So if there's diversity scholarships that are available that you want students to take a look at, those are just some examples I can think of. These are some great ideas. I know it's kind of hard in the moment to think of ones that you'd like to post, but just wanted you to think about it, especially if they fall outside of the process that Laura had mentioned, where a student will fill out one common application and apply to several. There might be just a chance now, an opportunity for you to go take a look at some that aren't part of that program that you would want to add. But just moving on to the next question. So I know it's really important that we have students understand and know all those things we're posting. So the question here is, how are you planning to communicate to students about the new dashboard resources, local scholarships you've added to XELLO? So be it, what tools are you going to use at your disposal to communicate with students about these resources? Yes, they will find them when they're in XELLO if you don't mention them, but what ways will you make sure that they're going to be promoted? They're going to find them. Keep in mind, hopefully we're in classroom settings. You'll be able to speak to them about them during counseling sessions, when they're in certain CTE programs. Hopefully you're able to mention those. But what other ways could you communicate with students about those dashboard resources and local scholarships? So one of the answers here is classroom presentations that would also get them into XELLO and show them the link. Yep, exactly. Letters home to parents. Yep, getting those parents involved in it. Of course, we got to light that fire under that student. That's one way to do it, and work at an approach with parents. Google Classroom links and counseling websites, classroom presentations, college nights, exactly. Also keep in mind parent-teacher nights, right? If you want to make that connection back to parents. Exit slips required after classroom presentations and add to class newsletters, exactly. So part of handouts. During certain advisory periods, if you want to talk about it, I know you have advisory meetings here, emailing out to parents and students, FAFSA nights, exactly. Classroom presentations as EDPs are updated, exactly, through counseling as well. Social media, great idea. If you have social media that you use within the middle school, high school, communicating with those groups via those links. Also keep in mind the messaging function within XELLO. You could easily message those students within XELLO. If they're part of certain groups, maybe all students, you want to message all of them to let them know. Because keep in mind, we do have all your students' email addresses in XELLO. So if you send a message to them, they'll get an email from XELLO as well, just letting them know that whatever you've put in that message, that there's a new resource or a new scholarship you want them to take a look at. So it's another one to keep in mind. No, these are great answers, everyone. Thank you for contributing to this. And just because we're just at time, I just want to quickly go into just back to the presentation for a minute, just to quickly talk about just some best practices really quickly on what types of links we want you to have as dashboard resources. I quickly just want to go through these, and I know some of the ones you've given have been great. So the Michigan Hot 50 jobs list, we did see that answer. Agreed. You are part of the Southeast region, so I have an image to the right here that includes Livingston. So these are really specific to your area. Including the Indeed job portal. So you could easily add Indeed so students can find jobs, be it local, part-time, those could all be added. Opportunity to Detroit Tech. So I know you're not really close to this, this area, but again, it gives students more information about technology, careers, and jobs that are possible within the tech industry. My apprenticeships, so they can look at apprenticeships, skilled trades.
Yeah,
So
we
really
can't see
neat.
your Zello screen yet.
Oh, I keep doing this, don't I? So one sec, I will share my screen. Apologize for that. Now are you seeing it?
Yes.
Sorry about that. This flipping between windows this time is a little trickier. I'm not sure what you can and can't see, so sorry about that. But quickly reviewing just, again, the Hot 50 jobs list from the Southeast region, which includes Livingston. Having Indeed, you can add those, that job portal within XELLO as well. Opportunity Detroit Tech for those tech positions that students want to know and learn more about. my apprenticeship, so students can see the apprenticeships available within Michigan and really then dive down into just your region. I found a really neat resource from the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau about comparing schools for costs. Is a really neat resource. That was just an example that I thought was really cool, especially for students that are looking to go to college. We had touched on this, but you can link within XELLO. So you can include XELLO Inspire. So any work-based learning opportunities, you could actually link and send a dashboard resource to a student who's interested in a certain career. Just like we did with nursing, you could easily add to that nursing group now an Inspire work-based learning opportunity. So for your job shadow day that Livingston hosts, maybe there's potential for them to attend a hospital and go alongside a nurse, right? And you could post that as a dashboard resource. You could also post XELLO career profiles. So for example, if you know students are interested in skilled trades, maybe you're posting all the different skilled trades that are available, or some of those really obscure ones that they might not have thought of, you could post as a dashboard resource. The last two kind of just going above and beyond, really, having Google Calendar. So if you have a district calendar that you have events in that are important, be it parent-teacher nights, you had mentioned FAFSA night, you could add a Google Calendar or any calendar link within XELLO so students can see that. And as you update it, it'll actually let them know that something's been changed within that link, and it'll update and say new next to it. So capture their attention and they'll be able to see anything you've added to that calendar. And then last but not least, just adding national scholarship databases. And this is just for now so that students can see other scholarships that are available outside of what XELLO has in terms of local ones. At this point, I know we're right just over time. Just want to mention as well that we do have resources for this as well on our help page at help.xello.world. We've updated that entire section now to include all types of short videos, resources on how to use anything I've talked about today. Just in case you need a refresher or wanted to see any more information about it, you can check it out on our help page.
Thank you so much, Matt. And this was a really helpful, informative session. Thank you everyone who participated. And don't forget, there will be a survey that will come your way that you need to fill out just a couple of pieces of information. And then you will be getting 1 college credit for this session from our counselors, and then a regular sketch credit for our educators. And we really appreciate you joining in with us today. We do have a little bit of a delay on our next one. Matt, I'm looking for our next session.
I believe it's in a couple weeks, just due to vacations and time frames. I believe the next one is, I did mark it down.
Is it Tuesday, August 4th?
Yes, I believe so. Yes, that is our next one.
Tuesday, August 4th will be our session 4, and that is using the course planner tool for 4-year planning. So some of your districts have the course planner tool and may be utilizing it, but we're going to go take a deeper dive. And then some may not have used it, but do still have the opportunity if they choose to. So this would be a great opportunity to get a little bit more educated on what that does. So thanks again, everyone. And we will look forward to seeing you sometime in the future.
Yeah, awesome.
Have a
Thanks,
great day.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Matt. Bye-bye.